Hello and welcome to another fascinating video about Django and Django REST framework on my channel. And the topic of today is how we could implement an email confirmation flow. Well, in one of the previous videos, as you remember, we used an email field in the user model in order to validate that the email that is provided by the user during sign up is actually in a valid format. But this is actually all what this field does. It just validates the format of the email that is provided. However, for security reasons, you should always validate that the email that is provided is active and used by user. And how you could do it? Well, to do this, you need to implement what is called an email confirmation flow. So here you have three possibilities. The first possibility is to use third-party library provided by Django, but this could expose potential security issues with your application, and this functionality actually is not an overkill to implement. So the second solution is to implement the things manually, as we will do it in this video. And the third option is to use third-party software as a service that will allow you to have kind of like REST API calls to some endpoints, to send email confirmations, to send phone confirmations, etc. So here you could immediately find two problems with this solution. First thing first, it will be an overpay. So this solution's paid, and you need to pay for email server, you need to pay for this service as well, so this is kind of an overpay. And the second, even more important thing, is that you will potentially expose data of the user for some unknown organization. So you don't know where this data is stored, how it is stored, and you could not rely on this third-party solution to expose such sensitive personal data as your user emails. So here we will implement this email confirmation flow manually. So how we could do it? Well, let me go to the user's app, to the models.py file, and here, as you remember, we have this user model, and we will add a field that is called is email confirmed, and this would be a boolean field, so we'll provide a default value to false. And the next thing that I'd like to do here, I would like to have another model that we'll call email confirmation token, and it would extend the model class. So here we will have an ID that would be of type of UID field. We provide this as a primary key. We provide a default value, this UID function, and we make it uneditable. Next, we will have this created add field. So the practical reason of this field is that actually we will here use this field in order to assert the expiration of this token later on in this video. So we will have here a default auto now add function to true. And finally, we need to associate this email confirmation token with the user. So we have here a foreign key. And here we have a user, and on delete behavior would be models cascade. So now we have these models, and let me go to the terminal, and let me run poetry, run python, manage.py, make migrations command, and then we'll say poetry, run python, manage.py, migrate, and now we have this email confirmation token. And now let's implement API views that we will use in this implementation. Okay, so the next step that we actually will do in this video, we will implement some API views that we need to have here. So basically we need to have two API views. The first one will return some information about user, such as email and avatar, and especially if is email confirmed. We will use this on the front end part, is it a single page application or mobile application. And the second API view will be actually used in order to send this confirmation email and create an email confirmation token. So we will not, in this section, we will not concentrate about sending emails. We will talk about separately later on. But now let's talk about API views implementations. So let me go to the views.py file, and let's here create some new API views. So the first one would be called a UserInformation API view. So it will be like a normal API view, and here we need to have a permission class is authenticated, because we need to have this user in order to return some user information. And here we will have a get method which have self and request parameters, and here we get a user which is a request user, and here we need to have an information such as in email. We'll get a user email, and also we will have here is email confirmed, where we have user, and if we return here, this property is called is email confirmed. So is email confirmed. And now we will have a payload. So we have here a normal object where we have here email, which is an email, and is email confirmed. And here we provide this email confirm property. So now we will return response, where we have a data of a payload, and the status would be 200. So this would be user information API view. So the second API view that we need to have would be called send email confirmation token API view. So here we have class send email confirmation token API view. So here we will implement as well post method. So here we will have a permission class of is authenticated, and we will have here a post. So we'll have here self request and a format equal to none. So what we will have here, we need to actually create an email confirmation token, and for this from users .models we will import email confirmation token model. So what we will get here, we'll have first get a user from request a user, and then we actually will create a token. So we'll have here email confirmation token objects.create. We will provide a user of user, and this will be a token. And then we need to send an email. So in this section we'll talk about sending email. So what we will do now, we'll go and create another file that we'll call utils.py, and here we'll create a new function that is called send confirmation email. And here we need to have first of all we need to have an email, we need to have a token ID, and we need to have a user ID. And for now what we will have just a print. So email confirmation was sent. Later on we will of course implement this functionality. So let me go here and from users utils import send confirmation email. So now what we will do, we will send a confirmation email. We will provide an email which will be a user email. We provide a token ID, so here we have token PK, and we provide a user ID which will be a user PK. So next what we will do, we will return a response. So the data here would be none, and the status would be 201 created. So this is kind of an implementation of send email confirmation token API view that we need in our application. So now, before we will talk about emails and sending emails in Django, let's, as always, provide the test for this API views implementation. Okay, so now let's test implementations of these API views. So first thing first, we actually need to register this API view. So go to the urls.py, and here from users views we need to import this send email confirmation token API view. Let me format it like this. And the next thing, we need to have this user information API view. So let me add two more views. The first one would be called me, and here we have a user information API view. So we have here user information API view, and here we will have here send confirmation email, and we have here send email confirmation token API view, and we call it send email confirmation API view. So now, as we have these two new API views, let's first start with automated tests. So let's go to test views py, and here we will have test user information API view requires authentication. And here we will have here the URL. First would be reverse users user information API view. Next, what we'll have here a response. So we have here self client get URL, and we need to check that assert equals. So we need to check that response status code would be for 103 forbidden, because we need to have actually an authentication. So the same idea would be with send email send email confirmation API view. Let me just copy this name in order to avoid typos. So here we have test send email confirmation API view requires authentication, and here we have URL. So we have here reverse, and we have here users, and the response self client post, and we have here URL. And we need to also check that actually we need to have here authentication token, and then we need to have a third test when we have here creates token. So here we first need to create a user. As you remember, we have here this user model created. So we have here user object, create user. We have here an email, would be called uriemail.com, and we have here a password. And then what we will have this URL, so reverse users email confirmation API view. Then we need to get self client force authenticate, and we provide here a user as a user. And then we need to have actually a response. So we say response self client post. We provide here a URL. We will check that the status code in this case would be 201, as we have here in the views.py. And then we need to check the token. And for this, first thing first, we need to import this token model. So from users models import email confirmation token. So now we have here this email confirmation token. We need to get objects, filter. We provide here a user, and we have here first. So we need to check that assertion. Assert not none. And we provide here a token. So this is a test that we will have here. So let's go to the terminal, and let's test this using poetry run python manage.py test. So now we have an error, and here is assertion error. We have 401 as for authenticated responses. So let me go back and let me check here to 401. Let me go back to the terminal and let's execute test again. And now test passed. And what we will do now, we will actually test this thing with our HTTP client. So we'll say poetry run python manage.py run server. And now let me go to the HTTP client and let's first create a new user. So we have here uriemail.com. Let's provide a password. So now we have here a user created. So first thing first, we need to log in here. So we have here in email, and we have here a password. And now we have this authentication token. As you remember, as for example in the change avatar, as you remember, we need to provide this token as authorization header. So now let me create a new HTTP request. And this HTTP request would be called user information, just user information. So here we have localhost 8000 users API and me. So we need to provide here authorization header. Authorization header. We provide here a token. And now we have here this information. So email is not confirmed. And now let's create another one. And here we will send email confirmation token. And it will be a post. So we call it users API, and let me just go back to my Visual Studio Code just to refresh how it is called. So send confirmation email. It's called like this. Send a confirmation email. We provide here authorization token. Authorization. And we provide here a token, so let me send. But now if we go to the our database, and here if we go here to this email confirmation tokens, now you see that this email confirmation token was created. And if we go back to the terminal, you see this message that was posted by our dummy function. But this kind of like end-to-end testing, but of course we need to be able to send actually email confirmations with real emails, because it's kind of topic of this video. So let's see how we could send emails with Django and Django REST framework, and let's implement this functionality now. One of most important advantages of using Django is that actually it comes with batteries included when it comes to handling common web development operations, especially sending emails. So as you know, Python has SMTP-lib module that allows us to send emails. But in Django, we have a number of additional abstractions that makes our life easier. So the code that we need to send emails is allocated in Django core mail module. So we'll need to import these things first. And the most common way to send emails in Django is by using sendMail function. And this function has several required parameters. The first is the subject. So subject is literally the subject of the message. The message itself is a text content. So if you want to also have an HTML content, you need to provide also this HTML message parameter. So we have from email, and the from email specifies the email where we which is actually allocated in this from field, so from which email we send this email. For example, admin or no reply and that kind of thing when it comes to email confirmation. And the most interesting, in my point of view, is this recipient list. So recipient list is basically a list of emails. And nevertheless, that we actually have only one email in this example, we still need to provide a list of emails here. So also Django abstracts this thing called email backends. Let me go back here. So email backends is basically backends that are actually used by Django to send emails. And as developers, we don't interact with this particular implementation, but just specifying an email backend to send the email. So here we have several email backends. The first is SMTP backend, which requires us to have as an SMTP server. We also have a console backend. This console backend allows us to print a message in the terminal or standard output, and this is kind of thing that we use for development but never use this in production. Let me copy this and paste in the settings.py. Also, for testing, there is a file backend. That's basically the same idea, but instead just printing this to the terminal, we actually here store in the file. And the second thing that's also works the same way is this in-memory backends. Also, there is a dummy backend that does nothing. Okay, so also as an alternative, you could have a SMTP server running locally, for example, using Docker, or you could have a real SMTP server that will you use for sending emails. However, for testing purposes, it is better to use one of these in-memory backend, file backend, or this console backend. So let's go and let's specify it inside settings.py. So let me go to the settings.py file, and let me here specify this email backend. So now, if we go to the utils.py, here we could import this from Django, from contrib email. Let me just go back and check, double check. Yeah, Django core email, sorry. Django core mail, import send mail. So this functions that we will use. And also from Django template loader, we will import this get template. So why we use here this get template? So we will not hard code this email, but we will have a separate file with a template, and then we will load it and send it using the send mail function. So inside templates, let me create a new file called confirmation email template, or just a confirmation email txt, and here we say please confirm your email address by going to the following link. So we have here http localhost 8000 users confirm email, and we have here token ID. We have here token ID, and we also have here user ID, which will be a user ID. So now what we're going to do here, first thing first, we will create a data, and we have here token ID, which will be a token ID. And we also have here user ID, which will be this user ID. So the idea here that Django, by using this get template function, would actually substitute this value. So it will substitute this token ID and this user ID. And actually, because this basically are UIDs, we need to first wrap them in the string function. So we have here token ID, and here we have user ID. So now what we will do, we will get this message. So we have message, and here get template, which path would be users confirmation email.txt, and here we have a render function where we specify this data, and now we have this message. So now what we will have this send email function where we provide the subject, please confirm email. We will have here a message, which will be a message literally. We provide here from email. So from email would be kind of like admin our app.com. We have here recipient list, which, as I said, is a list, and so we need to wrap this email as a list, and fail silently would be true. So now we will use this in order to send our message. So now if we go back to Insomnia and let me send confirmation email second time, you could check that here we have here this message that is printed by Django. So we have here this content type and all this message that basically is printed in the console. But the thing that we actually need to have here, we need to have here this view implemented. And let's see how we could actually do it. Okay, the final thing in this video is to implement a view that would be responsible for actual email confirmation. And for this we will use a normal Django view. So here I have a very simple template that has only this is email confirmed variable. And here we have, when the email is confirmed, we have here this success message. Otherwise we will have here this error message. So let's go and let's implement this functionality, and for this what we will do, we will use a function-based view. So let me go to views.py, and here first we need to import from Django HTTP, we will import a request. And now let's create this function. So we have here def confirm email view. Here we have a request argument, and as you remember here in the confirm email template we have two query parameters, the token ID and the user ID. So let's get them. So we have here a token ID, and we have here request get. Here we have token ID, and default is none, and we have here user ID, and here we have request get, and we have here user ID. So now what we will do, we will get this token. So we have try construction, try block, and we have here token, email confirmation token objects get, and we have here primary key which is equal to token ID, and then we have also accept email confirmation token does not exist. In this case, what we will do, we will have here this data. We will have is email confirmed equals to false, and we will return render function. We have here request. We have here a template name which is equal to the user's confirm email view.html, and we have here a context equals to data. Otherwise, what we will do, we will have here a user. We have token.user. So we have here user is email confirmed to true, and then we will save this user, and then we will return the same stuff, but the is email confirmed variable would be equal to true. So now what we'll go to urls.py, and let me register this route. So we have here a confirm email view, and here we have confirm email. So we have here this function, and the name would be confirm email view. So now let's set this implementation. Let me go back to the Insomnia, and let me send another confirmation token, and let me go to my terminal. So let me copy this token, and let me go to the browser, and let me execute this view. So you see that is email, your email is confirmed. Now let me go back to Insomnia, to the user information, and let me send this request. So now you see that email was confirmed successfully. So this is how we could simply implement email confirmation functionality with Django REST framework. Well, you could have a more sophisticated, for example, using one-time passwords, like for example LinkedIn does it, or you could use this classical token-based approach. So it's up to you how you're going to implement, but the same principles apply in all situations. So this is all for this video. If you find this video helpful and interesting, I highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your colleagues and friends. So this was all for this video. Have a nice day, and I see you soon.